Upon further review, we're back for another week.
A valiant effort by the Nittany Lions versus the Buckeyes, but they're now on a 3-game losing streak. We have to do something drastic to make this change, so I lost the tie.
The Fighting Turtles invade Beaver Stadium. Really? That's your nickname? The Blue White Tailgate Show is up next.
Great to be with you again on Blue White Tailgate, presented by Coors Light. Steve Jones, Todd, Sadowski, Trey, Bauer. Got all the names right this week. I'm also the only guy that showed up with the tie. All right, which means next week I'm bagging this thing.
Yeah.
All right,
Nice.
all right. I mean, this thing is going. All right. All right, no moral victories, but guys, that was one heck of a performance by this football team.
What an exciting game. Of course, a sellout, the whiteout. What a great atmosphere and a tale of two halves. Look, we're 7 games into the season. I think we know what we have here. We've got a superior defensive team that is offensively challenged, just trying to score enough points to get a W.
And no doubt a great effort by Penn State. James Franklin, though, wants to make sure that they don't settle for losses.
Really proud of how they competed. There are no moral victories at Penn State, and there never will be. But I'm proud of how they fought, and I'm proud of how they stuck together. And, you know, with that, we'll get where we want to go. We'll get where the fans want us to go. We'll get where everybody needs us to go.
Frankly speaking, presented by Blaze Alexander Family Dealerships. Trey, the defensive performance as you saw it.
Well, I thought they did a great job. I mean, the fact is that, you know, I said earlier that I thought if we could hold them to, you know, within the 3-touchdown game, it would be a great, you know, effort by our part. I mean, not only did we hold them and stop them, we actually probably should have won the game.
And offensively, they actually in the clutch, they came up with some stuff.
Absolutely. And, you know, look, the rushing game is what the rushing game is. Only 16 yards total on 31 attempts, so less than a yard when you look at the final statistics. Of course, they count sacks into that statistic. But 19-play drive when they needed it to come down to it. So Christian Hackenberg had an uneven performance maybe early on, but in the clutch, this guy certainly knows how to deliver.
It turns out that on our staff, our Andrew Kalista is a high school referee, so he understands the officiating, the ins and outs of it. So, Andrew, take us through what happened with the officiating.
Thanks a lot, Steve. And yes, I am an official, so I do know more than the average bear. Is anybody surprised we're talking about officials again? I mean, this is the Big Ten, and we all know, yes, they do suck. Let's start with the basics. Replay officials use the feed from TV. So the Big Ten says only the overhead view was available. Check out that view. Am I missing something? Pretty clear to me. But I'm only 28, not 63 like your average replay official. 5 plays later, slow it down. Yeah, that's a false start. Responsibility, head linesman Rick Kruger, former Michigan football player. Ohio State's 49-yard field goal, 1-1,000, 2-1,000. You get the picture? 4 seconds later, no flag. That's egregious. Responsibility, Scott Buchanan, back judge from Massillon, Ohio. The Big Ten, no comment on discipline, even though he was previously suspended in 2002. Forget this, not reffing to Big Ten standards. Hey, we didn't even get into the interference calls, spotting of the ball, timing issues, not once, but twice. Right, Coach?
I know you guys would love for me to give you a sound bite that not only would sell papers for you guys, but also would give me a big fine. I'm not going to do it. And I'm going to focus on the things that I can control, which is our players and our coaches and our program and loving these kids and coaching them and putting them in a position to be successful.
Oh well, worth a shot in postgame. In all, I submitted 5 plays and 10 questions to the conference office. They answered 1. Incomplete, of course, and you guessed it, hashtag no comment on the others. And won't make any disciplinary actions public. But hey, this is Chicago we're talking about. And just another Saturday in the Big Ten for Penn State. Right, Husker Tom?
6 points, Nittany Lions.
Don't worry, Steve. You won't get fined for this.
I thought that was.
How you really feel, Andrew?
I'm concerned it's sugar-coated.
Yeah.
All right, let's get to the Big Ten explanation that, of course, was put out by the conference on what happened. As you can see it there, about what happened with the video replay. They don't actually have the television broadcast in the booth, which, by the way, is delayed, which we have in our booth. I think that should at least be a standard. There has to be some backup in there for them, don't you think, guys?
Yeah. I mean, I think the fact is that there is no backup is, like, absolutely inexcusable. I mean, we've got iPhones, we've got video, we're in a technological age, and they don't have a backup for the replay people. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Well, and the mistake on the play clock, look, human errors are going to happen, okay? Some of the stuff's not going to be reviewable, but the fact that they weren't able to find out some feed, I mean, it was very conclusive that it was incomplete. I mean, as Andrew mentioned, even the overhead view, every view that you saw showed that it was incomplete. So to not have one view of it really seems a little strange.
All right, now they have to get back right back up on the bike and go out and take on Maryland. Trevor Williams is from Baltimore. He knows this will be a challenge.
Of course, last Saturday it was definitely a physical game, but I think we'll be prepared. We'll be ready. Coming into practice, watching film, studying Maryland. Maryland's a great team, and we're just going to have to come prepared, ready to play big-time football.
And Maryland, by the way, comes in off that loss to Wisconsin. They've had an up and down Big Ten so far, so we'll see how this plays out on Saturday as the two teams get together. This should be the start of a really good rivalry because being in the same division, they will play every year. Coming up, we'll take a look at the Nittany Lion offense, which in the clutch came up big on Blue White Tailgate, presented by Coors Light. Obviously, there were moments, especially in the first half, where they were fighting for every yard. But, Trey, it looked like they found a couple things.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, you know, we've been talking about the offensive line all year long. The bottom line is that there are going to be 5 guys that are going to show up, and they got to play. And who those 5 guys are is anybody's guess.
So, Todd, as we go through, a couple new names emerged, and in the clutch, they came up with some big plays.
Absolutely, and last week I talked about points being a factor. Could they get to 20 points? They didn't quite get there in regulation, and they were down 17-0 at halftime. But at the end of this performance really showed off the Lions' pride. It took the Nittany Lions longer than they would have liked, but one of the youngest teams in college football made the necessary adjustments to compete with Ohio State. Freshman wideouts Deshaun Hamilton and Saeed Blacknell provide a glimpse of a bright future for the offense.
Wish we could have executed a little better, but you know, I think that they did step up and make plays when they needed to, and you know, everyone's itching to do that. We're a young team, so you know, the young guys get that opportunity. They're going to try and capitalize on it.
The Buckeyes were averaging 56 points over their last 4 games. Penn State's defense shut them out in the second half of regulation.
I got used to the speed that they had. They had a tremendous speed. And then we just kind of settled down and just played our game. Shoop didn't have much to say. We came in at halftime. So I was 1 or 2 things, and that was really it.
I really think there's some positives we can take from it. But, you know, a loss is a loss, and that's all that really matters. But I think we're moving in the right direction, especially offensively, and we're just going to keep growing from this.
We'll get where we want to go. We'll get where the fans want us to go. We'll get where everybody needs us to go. But I love these kids, and sticking together, you know, we'll get where we want to be. And I told them that, and I was emotional when I told them that.
You know, and Coach Franklin was emotional afterwards, and it reminds me, guys, of our crew call. We get together. It starts with "I love you," it ends with "I love you," and then a whole lot of fighting and stuff in between.
Well, that's actually more heavy-like. If you don't mind.
I'm just quoting Coach Franklin. All right,
Yeah.
That's just
You do that,
No,
Todd.
I'm
That's
quoting
okay.
Trey after the meetings. All right, let's get to the Stocker Chevrolet drive of the game, brought to you by our great friends at Stocker Chevrolet, located across the Nittany Mall and the Better Pike. Start from their own one. 19 plays. In terms of the number of plays, the longest drive of the year. That first one to Deshaun Hamilton, he flips it to the outside to Godwin. Again, he's using a multitude of receivers here as he just moves the ball up the field. Godwin again. Godwin disappointed, he didn't break that tackle. Now it's Jesse James. Notice one different name after another here. This is Geno Lewis. This is the one that was not spotted correctly. Then, of course, the replay did re-spot it for them. And they were going to get the ball. Yep, obviously. Well, they approved of that replay. And now you get to Christian Hackenberg, okay? Gets taken down here, all right? But then he's able to bounce right back to Hamilton. Now, on this play, they called roughing the passer. But notice Hamilton was in the field of play. Flips the ball downfield, gets that one to Hamilton again. Hamilton had an unbelievable game that we'll talk about in just a few moments. James steps out of bounds. Again, conserving the clock. Hackenberg this time. He's going to take that shot at the end zone. That's thrown in the right spot. It's either a catch for a score or an interception. And Sam Ficken able to, out of the hold at Chris Gould. Remember, they had to change holders with Ryan Kaiser out, and he knocked it home. It's the 5th time in the 19-game career that Christian Hackenberg has taken his team down the field to either tie or win it on the final drive. Stocker Chevrolet drive of the game. Of course, finishing with a touchdown would have been, obviously, when you're in that situation, I mean, would have been huge.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, it could have. I mean, it could have changed the complexity of the game. I mean, the fact is that you gotta be able to put it in there, and to get 3 points is like kind of kissing your sister at that point.
You know, and you look at how they played. Well, okay, we'll bypass that. Yeah. All right, and Deshaun Hamilton, by the way, our family clothesline offensive player of the week, and let's take a look at what he did. 14 catches, Todd, in this game. This breaks Freddie Scott's record that he set in '95 against Wisconsin.
Yeah, in addition to our player of the week, he was the Big Ten freshman of the week for the second time, and certainly well-deserved. And it's all the places that you find him catching the ball. It's not just an out route. It's not just going deep. I mean, he's cutting across the middle. He's finding all the open spots in zones. He's beating guys man-to-man. He looks like a veteran receiver out there, and it's hard to believe this guy is just a redshirt freshman.
He does not mind taking contact.
Yeah,
that's the other part. He doesn't mind taking contact.
He's leading the Big Ten in receptions, over 8 per game. So great productivity from him.
Lynch gave them a boost too, Trey. How tough is it as a linebacker against a guy that has a burst but also wants to finish a run?
Well, I mean, I think it's very difficult. I mean, the fact is that you've got a guy who's got some speed, and he doesn't want to go down. Not that running backs want to go down, but the fact is that he's a tough guy. He's always fighting. He's always getting a yard or two here or there, and that adds up when you have a team that's, you know, challenged the way Penn State is right now.
Hey, Coach James Franklin liked the way Lynch handled the moment.
Yeah, I was pleased with Akil. He's decisive. He's a big physical guy. He's able to get downhill. I thought one of the things I think Akil does a great job is makes a decision, one cut, and hits it and gets downhill. So
now they had to jumble the offensive line, and to the credit of James Franklin and Herb Hand, they have practiced different scenarios of guys going down. That's why Angelo Mangiero played 3 different spots the other night, including right tackle in the clutch when they needed it. People are wondering about Miles Diefenbach. Well, Miles did not dress for the game. He was asked earlier this week whether the door is open to play against Maryland.
I feel pretty far along, but there's no really finite line where, I'm ready. It's kind of just a thing where, you get a feel for it. I've been practicing for a couple weeks now, and, getting better every day, and that's something you're looking forward to. And, when I know, it'll be a family decision, team decision, doctors, and,
It's really not simple. It's part of it's how he feels.
Right, absolutely. And maybe he'll get in a few series. We're not sure. Now, look, this would be a great game to get him back. Maryland is vulnerable to the rushing game. It would certainly be nice to have Diefenbach. But you mentioned Mangiero in the offensive line. As Coach Franklin mentioned, look, it's not we lost our left tackle, let's bring in the backup left tackle. It's the center comes in, the left tackle goes to the right tackle, the center goes to right. I mean, they're jumbling. They just don't have the depth on the offensive line.
They took Mangiero from center, put him at right tackle, took the right tackle, Nelson, put him at left tackle, and brought Wendy Loren at center. Most teams do that.
Yeah.
But that's how Penn State has to play it. And coming up, we'll talk to NFL Hall of Famer, College Football Hall of Famer, and my broadcast partner, Jack Ham, as we continue on Blue White Tailgate, presented by Coors Light. Welcome back to Blue White Tailgate, joined by my broadcast partner for the past 15 seasons, Jack Ham. Jack, first of all, welcome. Great to have you with us. And let's get to the job the captains have to do this week after an emotional game like that, because Mike Hall called a captains meeting on Wednesday. What kind of job do they have to do?
Well, Steve, I think probably the most difficult job they've had the entire season. I mean, after an emotional game with the great Ohio State football team, and they laid it on the line there, not only in regulation, obviously, but for the 2 overtimes as well. And to get this team back to play at a high level, because if they come out flat, this football team doesn't have the talent right now to win and just not be playing at a very, very high level. So the guys like Mike Hall on the defensive side of the ball, Hackenberg on the offensive side, we've got to make sure this team refocuses, because they can still have an outstanding season here in the last 4 or 5 games, and it starts right now with a very good Maryland football team.
Regardless of what the Butkus people say, you and I have watched Mike Hall every play of his career. At what level is he playing right now?
Well, that really frustrates me, Steve. Being an old ex-linebacker, to see, Mike Hall was healthy his freshman year, and then he had injuries and issues, and last year was really a throwaway year in a sense of because he was not the real Mike Hall. Mike Hall has come back this year, and I look at linebackers on how they play as a complete linebacker. If a guy is good against the run but a liability against the pass, well, you're half a linebacker. And so Mike Hall has made plays, against the running game in double-digit tackles all year. He makes plays man-to-man, covering either tight end or backs out of the backfield. He will rush the passer as well as a good blitzer off the edges a couple of times where he times it up. And then also in the passing game in the zone where he ends up getting an interception last week and just reading the quarterback and making a big play to get an interception to turn that into a touchdown to tie the game up. So I haven't seen a lot of players obviously play other than the teams we play against all year, but Mike Hall is just having a phenomenal year. Hopefully he stays healthy the entire season, and for him not to be on that Butkus Final 15 is a travesty.
Meanwhile, Ryan Kaiser, it's a tough injury, and we wish him nothing but the best. Marcus Allen had to step in as a true freshman to play. What qualities do you like about him initially?
Well, first of all, I think when he gets better ball skills, he had a chance in the Ohio State game to get a couple of interceptions downfield. He was in great position, but you know what? You got to play back there. You have to experience those 40, 50-yard passes downfield to get good judgment and try to get the ball at the high point, and he will get that. I mean, he's that type of an athlete at 6'2", about almost 200 pounds. But what really impressed me in the Ohio State game is how well he's able to fill on the running game as well. Ohio State tried to hammer the ball against our defense, and a lot of times that safety is unaccounted for in the running game. So if you can read quickly and get to the line of scrimmage, and you can make a lot of plays in the running game, and he was able to do that. I think he's going to be a true freshman, thrown into a tough situation in the Ohio State game, but there's nothing but positive thing with Marcus Allen back there as the season goes on.
They seem to have found something with Akeel Lynch in the fourth quarter of that game. When you watch him as a running back, Jack, what do you like about him, and how well does he finish runs?
Well, I think, first of all, people got to realize Akeel Lynch is not 200 pounds. He's about 220 out there at 6 foot, and what he does, he has the burst at the point of attack. I mean, he'll explode through there. Normally, he gets tackled at 12, but his body lean is going forward, gaining extra yards. You see where he almost has the ability to break one into the secondary a couple of times. We thought he might make a big play throughout the season when he has that burst. In the combination, he can, in fact, catch the ball out of the backfield as well. He's a good receiver. So, you know what, Akeel Lynch, you get opportunities because of injuries, and Zwinak, tough injury to be out right now, but we got depth at that running back position with Belton and Lynch, and I see both those guys probably rotating, getting a lot more playing time right now. But Akeel Lynch at 220, I think he's got a lot of ability. I think we'll see that with the last 4 or 5 games.
Christian Hackenberg 5 times now in the 19-game career. You and I have watched him on the final drive come back to either win it or tie it. What qualities as a quarterback in that situation allows him to excel?
Well, I think right now the calmness he has back there. I mean, obviously he's getting a lot more pressure than he did last year with the offensive line when he has to throw the football back there. But, you know, he was setting the protections. And you know, when he's calm back there as one of the captains, so is the rest of the offense. And, you know, he was going up against a very good Ohio State defensive football team, from the front four from Ohio State to their secondary. I mean, this was a difficult situation for Hackenberg to throw the football downfield. Found the open guys for the most part, and because he's been through it now. I mean, you don't talk about a sophomore as a Grizzlies seasoned veteran, but Hackenberg has already been through a lot back there. He has seen it all. So those last drives in the fourth quarter, or the final drive of a football game, I don't think those affect him as much as it would have been early in his career last year.
Jack, as always, appreciate the time, partner.
All right, Steve, take care.
Jack Ham, my broadcast partner for the past 15 seasons. Coming up, we'll take a look at the Nittany Lion defense, and later we'll take a look at the Terrapins of Maryland as we continue with the Blue White Tailgate Show presented by Coors Light. The Nittany Lion defense, Ohio State have been carving up one team after another how they've played offense. Trey, you know great defense. You played on one of the best ever in college football, not just the best ever at Penn State, but best ever in college football. What about that performance?
Well, I mean, I think they played great. I mean, probably their best defensive performance of the year. You got guys making plays from Mike Hall to Zettel to you've got pass rushers, you've got the defensive backs. I mean, they're all in it together. And when you have a really, really good defense, everyone has to contribute.
I'll say this, I'll give Ohio State credit. In the second half, in part because J.T. Barrett had hurt his knee in MCL, they got away from running the quarterback draw. Notice they were using Wildcat with Marshall, Wilson, Cardale Jones took a snap. At one point. In overtime, they went back to Barrett, and I think that was the surprise.
Yeah, no doubt. They weren't ready for it. And I think just from a sheer exhaustion point, Penn State had reached the point with no return. And Urban Meyer even sent a compliment the Penn State defense's way. He just talked about how hard they played, and with so much effort and so much energy. And look, they only allowed 74 yards passing in the air, 12 completions for Barrett for just 74 yards. So they really kept those explosive plays to a minimum for the Buckeyes, and that team was putting up some serious yardage, some serious points.
Mike Hull, our family clothesline player of the week defensively. All Mike Hull did in this game was have 19 tackles, 2.5 for losses, an interception. I don't know what our staff was thinking in choosing him for this award. He takes down Barrett there. He's just all over the field. He has great instincts, but you know what? They named the Butkus semifinals, 15 of them. He's not on the list. The reaction on Twitter, Bob Shoop, Herb Hand, obviously not thrilled.
It's ridiculous.
Look, this is one of the top linebackers in the country. Now, you can debate whether your guy's better or not.
Yeah.
And the other kid, Perry, for Ohio State, wasn't on the list either.
Yeah, I mean, it's so ridiculous. I mean, you think about it. Well, the first two Butkus Award winners was the same guy, Brian Bosworth. Okay, yeah. The guy was a clown. Okay, and he's better than Shane Collins. Last I checked, Shane Collins going to the Hall of Fame, and Bosworth's not. I mean, for Mike Hull not to be on this list is absolutely insane.
Yeah, one's going to the Hall of Fame, the other one's a 30 for 30.
Right,
yeah,
right.
Yeah, exactly.
And the Big Ten is a Power 5 conference, right? And Mike Hull is leading the conference in tackles, right? So how does he get left off of that list? I mean, there's 15 guys. They call it semifinalists, but there's 15 guys. He couldn't make 15?
Yeah.
Crazy.
James Franklin knows it's a privilege to coach a guy like this.
I think he should be on every award list right now. He deserves that. The guy is playing. I've been doing this 20 years. I've coached in a lot of different leagues, even the NFL. And the guy's playing at a really, really high level week in and week out. Makes plays from sideline to sideline in the run game and in the pass game.
By the way, Mike Hull is on the Bednarik watch list now. my recommendation to the Butkus people is that you should actually watch the games. Yes. All right, so let's get to the defensive line. A lot of this is set up by what they do up front. Up front, they had a strong game.
Yeah, I mean, I think, again, it's not about the defense that plays well. Our defense is very, very strong, top 10 nationally in every major category. Yeah. The guys up front are tough. It's just about trying to make plays when they need to make plays to offset some of the offensive struggles that we have.
Now everyone knows Ryan Kaiser, of course, with the fractured rib. He did need surgery at the Hershey Medical Center. That also meant, though, that a true freshman, Marcus Allen, Todd, had to step in and play safety in a big game.
Had a couple of days to get ready, and look, double-digit tackles in his very first start for Marcus Allen. Really did a fine job filling in for them, and I mentioned the yardage for Ohio State throwing the ball, so just 74 yards, so the entire secondary. What a fantastic job. And, you know, we discussed, like, Devin Smith, he was averaging like almost 30 yards a catch. I mean, those explosive plays. They kept everything in front of them and tackled really, really well.
And tackling well, Allen had 11 tackles in this game. James Franklin on the true freshman.
You know, Marcus, he needs to do his job. One of the big discussions that we had the last couple weeks is guys try to do too much. They try to make a play, and when you try to make a play, that's when you usually give up a big play. If you consistently do your job and your responsibility, the plays will come. The plays will come, and I think he's figuring that out.
And they'll be tested. Stephon Diggs, Deion Long, they have some guys that can stretch the field for Maryland, and they have an explosive passing game, so they'll be tested.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be, I guess interesting for me is what Maryland team is going to show up. Is it going to be the team that scores 52 points or the team that gives up 52 points? But I think if Penn State can consistently play defensively the way that we did on Saturday, they're going to be in good shape.
Okay, you mentioned the word consistency, so let's get to that part. It's the punting part of it, the consistency there. We'll get your reaction later. Let's hear from James Franklin what they need to do with the punting part of the game.
There's one thing punting in practice, there's another thing punting in games, and I think he hasn't been able to punt as consistently in games. And you got to work through that, and that's what we're going to do. That's what we're going to do. But this week it'll be an open competition between the two of them. We'll keep track of the yardage, the hang time all week long, and whoever's the most consistent guy, we'll go with them.
Well, again, there's no magic wand on this one.
No.
Kick it.
Yeah, I mean, the fact is that we have to find a punter who can consistently either get us out of the hole or put us in a good position, put our defense in a good position. We have not been able to do it the whole year, and it's actually going to be one of my keys to the game I'm going to mention later.
And William Likely, 16.5 yards per punt return this year.
Yeah, I mean, field position, we're not looking good in this battle, okay? 34 yards a punt. Over 8 punts against Ohio State. One of the solutions, of course, for James Franklin is to stop punting. Just keep the ball and start making more first downs. But, Ohio State kicked the ball 6 times. 4 of them were inside the 20. Yeah. 4 of them were inside the 20. And you mentioned the return game for Maryland. They have got some big-time playmakers coming up that can return the ball.
Hit of the week, besides Trey on Andrew Kalista in the break room, was this one in the game itself. Geno Lewis trying to go over the middle. And this is our hit of the week. He took a real shot there from Amani Reeves, the nickelback. Do we have to take one more look at this? I don't know. Okay. That was brutal. Oh, we get a third look. Yeah. Oh, look.
Three's a charm.
Yes, three's a charm. Coming up, we will take a look at recruiting. Guys that may deliver hits down the road for the Nittany Lions. And we continue on Blue White Tailgate, presented by Coors Light.
We are back on the Blue White Tailgate. It's time for the recruiting segment. Central PA Dock and Door is our sponsor, and it's also time to bring in Andrew Kalista. And Andrew, if you notice one thing on the sidelines, a lot of faces down there, very crowded at Beaver Stadium, but that's a good thing because the recruits were piled up watching this game.
Oh yeah, we couldn't even move down there. The cops, they were trying to get us back the whole time in pregame, get us off the field. You just couldn't move. There were so many kids that wanted to be there, and Todd, the atmosphere. Can you imagine what it would be like in the future when Penn State is 6-0 coming into a game like that?
I hope we have that problem or that situation face us, whether it be 6-0 for Penn State coming down the road. But coming into this atmosphere, it's almost like, look, We had a great game against the Buckeyes. Everybody knows we're a little short-handed. We need you. We need you, the recruits, to bring your talent to get us over the hump. So I'm sure that's the message. You know Coach Franklin. He's a great salesman. I'm sure the message is being delivered to the kids.
Oh, it was definitely being delivered. The kids, they went for Coach Franklin's traditional pregame walk around the stadium. Matthew Burrow, Sterling Jenkins, Tommy Stevens, the quarterback who's committed to Indiana, they were taking selfies on the field. Coach Franklin was loving it. He was thanking the guys for showing up early, the fans that were in the student section. I mean, it was just a tremendous atmosphere. And even the recruits got the sense, like after the game, their reactions were like, can you imagine like what will happen, down the road? So they love it. They understood that, hey, Penn State competed with about 46 scholarships.
Right, and don't take that word just from us. We called up to one of the recruits, Emmanuel McGirt, and he had a lot of great things to say about the atmosphere.
Man, it's crazy out here, man. It's real live. Everybody's out here hyping stuff. I'm having a great visit so far, so yeah. I like it a lot. My trainer went here, Bauer. We played left tackle here. It's early playing time. Coach Hanson's a good guy. Coach Franklin, he's cool. I like the commit so far and everything, so I'm liking it so far. Yeah, they told me, I have a chance to come in and compete for a starting spot as a freshman, so, it's something to look into.
It certainly is something to look into, and look, a lot of freshmen are coming in to compete for spots. A lot of freshmen out on the field. That helps the recruiting message as well for the players.
Oh, he was loving it. The guys, Matthew Burrow, he was loving about coming in, getting immediate playing time, and hey, I know they're a long shot for the Lions, but when you have your AD down there, Sandy Barber, you saw her taking pictures. She's hanging out with Andre Robinson from Bishop McDevitt. I mean, that's a big influence on some of these guys.
Yeah, absolutely. So the question becomes now, what kind of momentum does this build for the recruiting effort? And the guys are out there still getting the names, and this is really kind of giving them another jolt in the recruiting trail.
Oh, it definitely gave them another jolt, and I got to catch up with Adam McLean. He was taking his official visits, going to some other schools. I firmly believe he will be coming to Penn State. He is the most vocal commit in the class, and I think he's going to bring some big guys with him as well.
Okay, time for the Health South injury update. Now, typically tight-lipped about injuries, but they had to come out and let everybody know the word about Ryan Kaiser, the surgery that he had at Hershey Medical Center. He's out for the rest of the season. Also, Zach Zwinak, very first play of the game. He goes down. He's out for the season as well. And then Donovan Smith, kind of a wait-and-see situation, isn't it?
Yeah, Donovan Smith, it's a patchwork offensive line right now, but hey, he was playing banged up all year. We'll just have to wait and see. Is he going to dress on Saturday?
Okay, and then, of course, there's the other usual suspects. What we found out is 46 scholarship players will be available against Maryland. That's a pretty low number, but they're going to do what they can do against the Terps coming up here at Beaver Stadium, 12 noon kickoff for the Nittany Lions and the Terps. We'll see how it goes. They're 4-3. They got to break this 3-game losing streak. Andrew Kalista, thanks a lot for all the knowledge here on the recruiting segment. We're going to be right back coming up on the Blue-White Tailgate.
One guy flanked to the right side. Now one comes alongside. They give it to Jaquil Bay, and Bay is across the 40 down to the 30 this team this year. Here's C.J. Brown up the middle. He's inside the...
Welcome back to Blue-White Tailgate. Trey, Todd, see, I got all the names right this week. All right. Maryland's interesting. 5-3. I felt both Maryland and Rutgers coming in, actually the way they were set up with upperclassmen were pretty well equipped for their first Big Ten seasons. Maryland's interesting. Offensively, they can move.
Yeah, I mean, they could definitely move the ball. If you just look at kind of what their averages are for the year, I mean, they're scoring 31, giving up 29. It's kind of like you've got, it's a tale of two cities, so to speak. I mean, the fact is, like, you don't know what team is going to show up, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens on Saturday.
And Todd, you're in an interesting area because there are a lot of Maryland fans down in the area that you work, and also Randy Edsall came out of UConn, had to take this job and had to shape it in his own image. He's now in his 4th year.
Yeah, a local guy from York County, Susquehannock High School grad, and he was at UConn, took that team to the Orange Bowl, and then left for the Maryland job, calling it his dream job. So it is something that he remembers going to see the Terps when he was a kid. It was always something that he targeted, got the job at the right time as he built the UConn program. And uneven performances so far for Maryland in their 4th year, but they had 17 of 22 starters returning, most in the Big Ten Conference. So they were expected to compete this year.
Yeah, and by the way, the UConn job was interesting because he took them into the FBS era, really an expansion team, and did a heck of a job winning the Big East, and then, as Todd mentioned, going to the Fiesta Bowl. Now, let's get to their defensive issues. There have been a couple along the way for them as you look at it. You can see in the Big Ten, down across the board, an opportunity maybe for Penn State to exploit, Todd.
Yeah, sure, I'll take it. Absolutely. Well, the rushing defense, maybe that's not the best matchup for us, but if there's a team that we should be able to push around a little bit at the line of scrimmage, it could be the Maryland Terrapins. And then Hackenberg, of course, is leading the Big Ten in passing, so we expect them to move the ball as well.
Cole Farron and Gorey, the two linebackers. We get the linebacker play for you. You watch them play. Especially Farron plays the run pretty well.
Yeah, I mean, I think that they're okay, but it's not that, I mean, they're playing in the Big Ten, okay? They're not playing Wake Forest, they're not playing North Carolina State, they're playing Ohio State and Michigan, they're playing us, okay? So I'm not going to, like, confuse, you know, these guys with, like, Jack Ham and Jack Lambert, okay? Because it's not, they're okay. They're serviceable players.
Andre Monroe, big up front, does a good job, 7 tackles for losses, but then Sean Davis leads them in tackles. Sean's a safety, Trey.
Yeah, that's not. It's not good when your safety is leading your team in tackles. That means the other 8 guys in front of you are not doing what they're supposed to do.
That's good for us. That's good for Penn State. That's for, you know, that the safety's leading the team.
And by the way, William Likely's had a great year at that corner. 4 picks. He's taken them back for touchdown, a couple for touchdowns. Big play guy.
Yes.
Miles Diefenbach, 3-4 scheme. So he talked about how they have to approach it.
Yeah, they're a good defense. They're a little different. They have a stand-up defensive end, so it's kind of a 3-4 personnel, but a 4-3 look. And they're very athletic up front, strong guys, so we're going to have to be on point and execute against this team.
Yeah, 212 yards per game they give up rushing. C.J. Brown, dual-threat quarterback. So, Trey, I'll turn to you. How do you defend a guy that is a dual threat? Because he not only leads them in passing, which is obvious, but he really by a wide margin leads them in rushing.
Yeah, I mean, he's a very good player. I mean, he would be, you know, one of those guys where it's very difficult to defend him because you have to stay in your lanes. You have to stay exactly where you're supposed to be. You can't really freelance against a guy like that because once you start getting out of position, he's the kind of guy who could kill you.
And James Franklin, Brown, by the way, because of injuries, a 6th-year guy. So James Franklin does have a history in recruiting him.
Early on in his career, he kind of had the injury bug. That's why he's got 6 years there. So I'm really happy that he's, you know, able to end on a real positive note, his career there. You know, but he's the type of guy, you know, it's what college, you know, athletics are all about. He's been able to get a great education. He's been able to play football at a high level. And I'm just really, really happy for him.
And the players to watch list in the Big Ten, of course, in the preseason. Stephon Diggs made the list. I know I had him on my ballot as well. You see him a lot.
Well, certainly needs to be on that list because this guy can strike at any time from any place on the field. They want to get the ball in his hands. And you know, C.J. Brown, you mentioned, is a 6th-year senior. He understands what's going on out there, and he knows where Stephon Diggs is at all times, and he's going to be looking for him.
And the guy that will have to look for him all day, Todd, is Trevor Williams, and he talked about defending a great player like this.
Diggs, he's definitely a great competitor. Knowing him from back home, he's always been like that. He's always been a standout athlete and just making plays all his life. And it's definitely going to be a test for us this upcoming week, but I think we'll be prepared and ready to play big-time football.
They not only use Likely, by the way, on punt returns, they use Diggs on kickoff returns as well. So they try to get in the return game their best athletes involved. Diggs on kickoff returns, Likely on punt returns. Coming up, we affectionately call it the G block or the go block. We'll come back with more on Blue White Tailgate after this.
I'm really not going to say much. I'm kind of just going to absolutely just demolish you on the next point. I'm just going to push you across the table. You're going to be running all over the place, and there's just going to be no chance you're going to win the next couple points.
That is the state ping pong champion in the Keystone Games, Miles Diefenbach. Teammates challenged him to go. He went up and won it. Our Andrew Kalista, of course, wanted to challenge him, but then again, he challenges everybody, whether it's in-game or not. All right, let's get to Upon Further Review with our great friend, Fran Fisher.
Well, here come the Maryland Terrapins on their maiden Big Ten voyage to Beaver Stadium. 1992 was the last time they were here, and the good guys edged them 49-13. As you might suspect, the 1966 Penn State Maryland game is the one I best remember, since it was my first year on the Penn State Football Radio Network. It was that season's opening game, and the team gave Coach Joe Paterno the game ball, commemorating a 15-7 Penn State win, his first as the Nittany Lions head coach. Just in case you don't remember, Joe went on to win 408 more. I'm wondering how many of you remember how Penn State's 15 points were scored. Come on now, Googling is cheating. Well, it was a great Mike Reed's coming out party, as he was credited with 3 safeties, 1 on a blocked punt, 2 on tackles in the end zone, a simply unheard of defensive single game accomplishment. A Tom Sherman field goal and quarterback Jack White's 2-yard touchdown run and failed 2-point conversion attempt accounted for the other 9. The game was played before a whopping crowd of nearly 41,000, slightly less than capacity. How far has this program come? Think about it. That's 66,000 or so less than attended last Saturday's game. Another 107,000 attendance for this Maryland game would be awfully nice. For WHVL's Blue White Tailgate Show, this has been Upon Further Review. I'm Fran Fisher.
An addendum to Fran's story, Lou Saban was in his first game as the coach at Maryland. He coached the Buffalo Bills to back-to-back AFL championships. Well, Joe goes running out to shake his hand, and he's not there. And Joe's always wondering, what do you say in that moment? That was his first win. Saban called him on Monday morning, and Lou says, Joe, he says, I wanted to go out and shake your hand. He says, but we were both so lousy, I didn't know what to tell you. All right, the good, the bad, the ugly. No offense, but they gave you the ugly.
Yeah, no offense taken. I'm not. The only thing I can say ugly is what's going on with North Carolina. I mean, what has happened over the last 18 years as far as institutional loss of control, this is what the NCAA should be doing, not what they did to Penn State, which was the ultimate screw job. I mean, they should go after North Carolina. They should go after that program, all the athletic programs, and they should really take it to them, and that's the ugly.
I'll take the bad. Does anybody play defense in the Pac-12 or the Big 12? Look, I like points just like anybody else, but 82 points Texas Tech gave up to TCU. When does it become about how poor the defense is as opposed to how good the offense is?
I get the good, and that's Shane Conlon, 2-time All-American. You know, my only criticism, it took too long for him to get into the College Football Hall of Fame. All right, let's get to the college football playoff. They finally released the standings, guys, and 3 of the top 4 are SEC West teams. Not just the SEC, one division.
Yeah, I mean, it's unbelievable that you can have that many teams and that many programs that are in the top 5, but I guess if you cheat on a consistent basis like they all do, I mean, there's no reason why they all should be in the top 5.
Yes, and on the outside looking in, Notre Dame is at 10, but you got Alabama looming as well. There's Oregon, too.
4 out of the top 6 are in that SEC West with Alabama at 6. Notre Dame, no love for the Irish. They're sitting at 10. Michigan State can still move up as they go through at number 8.
By the way, he picked LSU to beat Ole Miss last week. Good call.
I mean,
Death Valley.
Even a squirrel finds a nut once a day.
TCU at West Virginia.
I think West Virginia is going to put 50 on them, and I think West Virginia takes them.
Utah, Arizona State.
Wow. Somebody scoring 50, right? We know that. I'll go Arizona State. Utah coming off a good win.
Auburn, Ole Miss.
Ole Miss, second loss in a row. I like Auburn.
All right, so let's get now to our keys to the game. All right, you said you had something in the bank for your keys to the game. Time to open up the vault.
Well, I think my keys to the game are going to be, can we punt the ball even remotely effectively? If we get into a field position game, it's going to be a long day for the Nittany Lions. I think that we need to punt the ball better, and I think that Christian Hackenberg is going to have a big game. He's going to throw for 400 yards.
Defensively, keep the ball in front. Offensively, get some balance against this team. If you do, you can rack up some points.
I think what we've discovered is just score one more point than the opponent. That's how this team succeeds. We've got to break this 3-game losing streak, and I think we do it with more explosive plays than Maryland. They have some big-time playmakers. We can avoid the big play from them and get a few ourselves. I think we can win this game.
5 games to go in the month of November. It starts with this game Saturday at Beaver Stadium. Thus, it is a very important game with a 4-3 football team looking to push forward. We look forward to talking about it next week. For Trey, Todd, and Andrew, I think. I'm Steve. Thanks for joining us. This has been the Blue White Tailgate Show presented by Coors Light. Thanks so much for joining us.